All right. Hello, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. It looks like my microphone is on. Thank you for joining us at our March 12th business meeting. I'm going to officially call this meeting to order at 6:38 p.m. We are coming to you live from our district office at 131 Livingston Street. I'll ask that anyone here from the public, please sign the attendance sheet in the back of the room. And anyone online, please sign the attendance sheet that I am going to drop into the chat. There you go. So I am going to first introduce our interpreters one by one. If they could just stand up and introduce themselves. You can just stand over there and introduce yourself. The microphone should pick you up.
ফাতেহা খান বাঙালি ইন্টারপ্রেটার। যদি আপনাদের বাংলা ভাষায় কোনো সাহায্য লাগে বললেন, আমরা ওই জায়গায় পিছনে ইন্টারপ্রেটার আছে, দুজন আপনাদেরকে হেল্প করবো। থ্যাংক ইউ।
Now we have our Spanish interpreter.
Hello, this is Dora de Fines, Spanish interpreter. Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Dora y voy a ser una de las intérpretes en español.
Thank you so much. And our Mandarin interpreter.
Hello everyone, I'm your Mandarin interpreter for tonight. 你好，大家，我是您的中文翻译。
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to call the roll. Councilmember Antonia Ferraro, yes, I am present. Leslie King has an excused absence. Vanessa Gonzalez Uoka said she would be joining us. She was late. Nancy Cruz has an excused absence. Donalda Chumney, I don't know if she's going to arrive later. I had no communication with her. Nancy Randall sent in an excused absence. Hans sent in an excused absence. Lauren Barkin sent in for an excused absence. Mamoon Rashid, I have not heard from. Danley Vidal.
Present. Here.
Jonathan Davis. Okay. And is our high school council member Annalie Diada on the call? No, okay. All right, we have to make sure she's getting communications from the council, Shanice. Is it possible that Annalie isn't getting our CEC? She's, okay, all right. All right, we do not have quorum tonight, so we will not be able to vote on anything. So Jonathan, should we read the parliamentary protocol? I mean, we could take public comments on something, even though we're not going to vote on it.
Yeah.
All right.
We might as well.
Okay, all right. I will turn it over to you.
We're still going to discuss
Things, yeah.
Good evening. Tonight's business meeting is in person and will include a public comment period. We will take both remote and in-person comments to gather additional feedback from our families and school community members. You may leave your camera on, or for your own privacy, if you prefer, you may use audio only during the comment period and throughout the meeting. Rules of engagement. When you comment, please comment on the topic. Respect the privacy of others, and please do not include names of children or staff. Guests who make inappropriate comments will be removed from the meeting. During the public comment period, those attending virtually may raise their hand to comment or indicate in the chat that they would like to speak. Those called upon will be unmuted. If you are attending in person, you must sign the guest attendance sheet and indicate whether you would like to comment. Speakers will be called on one at a time and will be allowed 1 minute each for comment. We will hear as many speakers as the time allows. It is possible that not every comment and/or question will be given time. So the best way to get your question answered is always to write to the CEC at cec15@schools.nyc.gov. CEC members will also be given a comment period. Members will be called upon and are each permitted 1 2-minute comment and/or question. If members do not have a comment, they may cede their time to the chair.
All right, thank you all. Okay, thanks so much. Okay, so the next thing on our agenda is our minutes. We cannot vote on those minutes, so we will have to move them to the next calendar meeting. I'm just gonna go right into the president's updates. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us. I wish Ramadan Kareem to all our Muslim families. The holiday began yesterday. I'm going to highlight some other upcoming events around the district. Tomorrow, Wednesday, March 13th, from 3:30 to 6:30, District 15 will hold its second annual PBL and SEM Share Fair, Project-Based Learning Share Fair, and it will be at the Brooklyn Army Terminal. The entrance is at 8058th Street. And by the way, if any of the members want to volunteer, get in touch with Neil Singh. I'm going to be going a little bit earlier to help set up and help them out. Also, this Thursday, March 14th, is Dyslexia Awareness Day. The Literacy Academy Collective is providing a free bus to go to Albany, and they will be speaking to legislators and organizations about literacy laws and better learning practices. They are providing meals and snacks. Adults and children are welcome, but children must be attended by an adult. So that is this Thursday, March 14th. The location pickup is Adam Clayton Powell Building, 163 West 125th Street, and they will be leaving at 7 a.m. sharp. I'm gonna put some information. I'm gonna put a link to sign up for it. There's a form. It's kind of a big link. So then next Wednesday, March 20th at 11:30 a.m., our communications committee will hold a meeting at 131 Livingston Street. Our communications committee chair will talk a bit more about that later on in the meeting. On Friday, March 22nd at 11 a.m., we're going to also have a legislative committee meeting, which I'll talk about in more depth later. Then on Monday, March 25th, we are going to hold a joint District 15 PTA President's Council meeting, and that is going to be on Zoom. That the President's Council will send out information about that with the link. And then we will have our calendar meeting on March 26th at PS 2:30. At that meeting, Superintendent Alvarez will be discussing the District 15 Literacy Plan implementation. So I encourage people who are interested in that new curriculum to come to that meeting to have their questions answered. The district is also planning a family workshop on universal screening data on April 9th. And that flyer is on our website. Now, COVID relief funds. This is a big issue over the last few years. As you know, New York City Department of Education has been using $7 billion in temporary federal COVID relief funds for very important programs, for 3K, for preschool special ed, for social workers, for community schools, for school nurses, for restorative justice, for school psychologists, and shelter coordinators, bilingual staff, translation and interpretation, dyslexia and literacy initiatives. And those federal funds are running out starting in June. So those funds will impact District 15 schools, and I know our superintendent will be working with principals to mitigate this as much as possible. But the threat is very real. At the table, I have a flyer that will illustrate what these cuts could mean specifically to District 15. We could lose 16 social workers, restorative justice at 9 schools. We could lose 3 shelter-based coordinators, 3 learning to work programs, 3 community schools, bilingual programs at 3 schools, and 2 3K integrated classrooms, as well as 1 pre-K special ed program. So we did send out that 1 pager to our entire mailing list that illustrates the risks to the programs in our district. And City Council is going to hold hearings on March 18th. So I encourage everybody to speak out and sign up to testify or submit a written testimony and just share what is at stake at your school. I will add to the chat some information about how people can sign up to testify. Also, and this is the last thing I'll say, the Independent Budget Office is going to be presenting at our next calendar meeting. And I'm very excited about this. They have created a video series called Demystifying School Budgets. I recommend that everybody take a look at that. I'm going to put the link to that in the chat. It's a huge link once again. That might not have worked out in the best way. Let me see if I can do this better. Copy link. No matter what, it's a giant link. Anyway, if you Google demystifying school budgets, it is available on YouTube, and they're going to present on the programs that are at risk and specifically changes to early childhood budgets. So please join us. We have lots going on. I see that Rachel Laurie is in the room, and she is up next to talk about a proposal for a sponsorship. So Rachel, can you unmute yourself?
Hi, friends. How are you all? Good to see you. Thank you for bearing with me in my bedroom here. I've got a sick kid out in the living room. I may have to go out and take over in just a moment. And I thank you for hearing this proposal. The vision behind this is many folks are very curious about mutual aid. What separates mutual aid from, say, regular charity, and sort of supporting nonprofits the way that we're kind of most of us are initiated into providing, help and community support. It can feel sort of mystical, but really it's based in hundreds and hundreds of year-old practices that come out of Black and Brown communities. It predates the Underground Railroad, but that's sort of a benchmark historically for when mutual aid movements really took hold in the United States. So my proposal is that we have one of New York's like premier experts. There's actually two folks who may be co-facilitating the workshop, but the main facilitator is a woman by the name of Diane Patank, and she is herself an African immigrant. She's been in the country for a few decades. I'm just going to go ahead and read a little bit about the org that she's currently she founded and she's working with. It's called Africa is Everywhere. So Africa is Everywhere is a social praxis initiative organized to meet the urgent needs of African service organizations, immigrant rights organizations, public officials, researchers, and cultural workers looking to welcome and weave continental and diasporic African migrant communities into their social fabrics. So obviously her particular expertise is extremely topical right now. And she has been one of the sort of foremothers of real, true solidarity with our new neighbors. She's instrumental in the support that Bushwick City Farm was providing to the shelter directly across the street, Stockton, which was predominantly African men. And she's just simply an expert in the history, the real world praxis, and also in all of the different intersecting factors that are contributing to this current moment. And so she would be the facilitator. Potentially, she would have a co-facilitator of Marielle Acosta, who is a PhD candidate, who's also affiliated with Bushwick City Farm, and essentially is, I mean, again, these two women have been carrying so much during this current moment, and really are truly from cultural traditions of mutual aid, have deep academic understanding of the history and everyday real world experience with the praxis. And so the vision for the workshop is a 2-hour Zoom. The first hour and a half is the presentation, and then half an hour of Q&A. There would be various breakout groups about different sort of aspects of mutual aid. Certainly would cover a very quick, mutual aid 101. What is it? What is the brief history? And then, more importantly, how can folks find their way into the work in this moment, and in Brooklyn and throughout the city. She's the fee would go 100% to her organization, which is providing mutual aid. But she's requested $800 to build up this workshop. For this, she would also provide essentially the blueprint for this workshop, should we want to replicate it in the future. And she gives that, that's and freely hopes that we continue to share this knowledge as we go. So we could, I'm very happy to commit long-term to keeping this learning going in our district. And I would be happy to make sure that we take those materials and put them to good use over the coming years. So that's what I got.
That's amazing. Just remind me the name of her organization again.
Sure. It's Africa is Everywhere. I can send you a link.
Oh, okay. Yeah, great. So, and
it's a brand new, she's just founded this org. She was formerly, it was one part, not to get into the tall grass here, but one part of mutual aid is that organizations sort of, it's less important to the work that it is a long-standing organization. It is, it's more common to have, and by an organization is really just a group of people who come together and commit to an idea. It's really about being nimble and about meeting a current moment. And so she, over the course of the last year, she was working on a project called BAMSA, which I am atrocious at acronyms, but I believe it was the Black, African, and Muslim something. But also they were doing very similar work. This is sort of the next, the synthesis of her work, the evolution of her work. This is the next org that she just began.
Okay. So we don't have quorum tonight, so we
Okay.
can't vote on this. But what I would love you to do is just to put this in writing so that I can distribute it to the other members.
Sure.
And then we can have a vote at the next meeting. And then we can go ahead and try and schedule something if the other council members,
Approve. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, she had floated the last week of April or the first week of May. So your next meeting would be in April, right? Just cutting it a little close.
Right, so we're having a meeting at the end of March, March 26th, so we could
vote.
conceivably vote on it then.
Okay, great. I mean, that doesn't have to be the date, obviously, but those were sort of near.
May might be better because we have to like give,
Okay.
yeah, it just might be, better.
Either one works. Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you so much. Does anybody want to comment on that or?
Would anybody, we don't have many people on Zoom, but has there been anybody on Zoom who has any questions for Rachel? Or comments?
My presentation was so thorough. I left nothing unknown.
Anybody in person? Any questions or comments for Rachel? CEC members. Antonia?
I don't have any comments, no.
Vanessa?
Not at the time. I'm looking forward to seeing a written statement on it. Sounds really interesting. Yeah, I just want to hear more about the work.
I agree. It sounds fantastic, and I look forward to seeing and learning more. Stanley? Nothing?
Does anybody have any thoughts about the price of it? To me, it's in alignment with what I've seen other presentations cost.
Right.
We've set aside money.
Yeah, we've set aside money, so, all right.
I guess my question just would be, what would the money go towards specifically? Like more itemized, sort of like how's this contribution actually, will be used just for justifying to the public however it happens.
Rachel, can you hear what Vanessa's saying?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm happy to get a little clarity from her specifically, but one of the hallmarks of a mutual aid organization is that it rises to the moment. So her description, so basically what they provide is immigrants' rights. They do coordination. And it's really just predominantly about meeting urgent material need. So, I mean, really food, clothing, connection to shelter. She's facilitated ESL workshops. These are just off the top of my head in the last couple months, things that her previous organization and this one currently are providing. ESL workshops, really soup to nuts in the material goods support. That's the predominance of what they do. And then, there's fees associated with filing immigration paperwork, as I'm sure most of you are familiar with. Really anything associated with folks getting themselves on their feet. I think that's the thrust of what she's doing right now. But and the work I've done alongside her and seen her do has been very much, she's very generous with her knowledge, and she does a lot of teach-ins, but the money goes to the material goods, to food, to clothing, to shelter, to paying those TPS fees, temporary protected status, costs $495 to apply, things like that.
That's great. All right, thank you. We look
Yeah,
forward to getting, just
You got
getting
it.
it on paper.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, well, let's move on just in time for bylaws committee. You just sat down, but you're on now, Vanessa.
All right. So update. Okay. So
Do you want me to share the screen?
I
or-
think that will make the most sense.
Okay.
The last time we talked about the bylaws, we talked about having spent some time just going through the entire document, making sure that it is consistent with the principles that FACE puts forward, that we must abide by law. And also the need to update some of our own standards of conduct, again, based on the legal standards that are out there. So we have to, my understanding that we have to read this in a public forum.
We have to read it twice at two separate calendar meetings
Okay.
before we can vote on it.
No, this is a
This-
business meeting.
Huh?
This is a business meeting.
I know this is a business meeting, but we also just need to have a conversation about it.
So
And very few people are here,
I don't know
unfortunately.
how meaningful it would be to have a conversation, but I can just summarize briefly the important points.
Why don't we, I mean, Leslie is in the room, in the Zoom. She wasn't here for any of this last time, I don't believe.
Leslie, where are you?
Leslie, were you here for the last conversation about the bylaws?
I feel like I was here for one
You
of the
were.
conversations.
Okay. Well, you know, like, I feel like when you have when you have the readout, you don't want it to be so like in such a state that like you kind of want to have these sloppier conversations now in a business meeting rather than in a calendar meeting. So I don't,
All right.
do you want to just go over the changes?
Yeah, let's do that. So quick, I'm gonna try to make this as painless as possible. There are changes that are not very meaningful, so we have not. I'm not gonna go through the table of contents because it would just make sense once you see page numbers and everything else and what's in the actual document. What we did on, okay, let's see.
Just tell me what to-
Section 3.
Section 3, okay.
Again, we discussed this last time. There was a clause F is now deleted, in which the bylaws require the president to keep a physical copy of any records important and relevant to what happened during the CEC term for that president, and for that copy to be kept by the AA and transferred to the incoming president. So we felt that was not necessary, given that we are all able to access all relevant documentation in online, and that it's better for our environment to not kill so many trees. So we eliminated that portion. Now, we did not have, as a CEC, we do have different officers. We did not have one on our bylaws for the parliamentarian role in his or her or their duties. So we, in section 3.5, we added a parliamentarian description, not only what they do, but exactly what the role entails. Quickly, it shall fulfill the following goals: protecting the rights of all individuals, minorities, the majority, absentees, and all the CC members as a single body, dispose of issues in a quick and orderly fashion, and enable the majority to make official determinations, and prevent the community board members from discussing more than one motion at a time. So just provided some clarity to the role. Moving on to Article 3, Section 2. We had discussed during previous CEC meetings that we needed a clarification on the attendance to meetings, given that our format, if we voted for a hybrid resolution and our format may change depending on whatever is going on with a particular member at a certain time, we essentially embedded all the relevant portions of the resolution that are applicable to the bylaws into the bylaws. The language is just changed to make sure it's adjusted to a bylaw format, but it's the exact same points discussed in the resolution. I don't know if we want to go through it point by point. I know that we are going to have to do this.
Right,
more
okay.
specifically, so I don't think that's
All right.
necessary.
Okay, so
Um,
we've added everything from the hybrid resolution,
Exactly.
basically. Okay.
Absences didn't change. It was we have to give a 24 hours notice. I know that it appears that there is a change. That's not actually a change. It was a misunderstanding from a previous edit. Let's see. Okay, section 3. Section 3. We touched on whether we should have the annual meeting for the transfer of I don't know what you call that power from council to council from year to year.
The establishment of officers, the
Yes.
annual meeting is the vote on the officers.
We discussed on whether we should have a particular date, that it was not the second Tuesday of July, given that most people are traveling right after school comes out during summer. Ultimately, we decided that there's really no good way to enforce anything else other than that, and that if needed, we would just modify the date as needed at that point in time. Article 4, conduct of business at meetings. We essentially reformatted this portion so that articles that come ahead from this one also make sense. We included a paragraph in which we refer back to the parliamentarian rules. Only one person that's presiding or chairing the meeting, whether it's parliamentarian or the chair, has the authority to yield the floor to a member of the council or a guest or a member of the public. And we specify that members of the person that has the floor has 2 minutes to speak uninterruptedly. What else? And that all the procedures that we discussed previously as codes of conduct need to be obeyed by. We are also referring to the Robert's Rules of Order, which parliamentarians should be aware of and acquainted with, but they have obviously the duty of applying it as they best see fits at that whatever point. Okay, so
Just tell me where you're gonna be so that I can.
yeah, section 2.d. We limited the speaking time to 1 minute per person.
Did we skip? Hold on,
Did we skip something?
2D. Okay, sorry. Got it.
2D. So we are specifying that any member, whether it's the council or the public, that has a floor at any given time has 1 minute to speak, and that can be extended at the discretion of the parliamentarian or the president. It just allows for a more fluid conversation and to be able to move faster without a lot of items in our agenda. But again, it's something that we can revise as needed. Let's see, next point will be 3.2, official actions. Okay, we deleted the official actions. Okay, this was repetitive. There was no changes made on this point. It was simply that we had already included this new clause elsewhere in the bylaws. So it was an error made in the previous format, in the previous bylaw draft. And that's
All
why
right,
it's
so there's
limited.
something somewhere else in the bylaws that says all official action shall be sent through the council's designated.
Correct.
Okay.
Point 5A.
Do we want to add something about, which we talked about, just communication with the council, of sharing information? That, so like when something is sent through the official channels to Shanice and you and Tonya, that the distribution of that information to the rest of the council members' emails, because I don't think that's in here, right?
So we had talked about it previously, and I think that as it is, just personally speaking from my experience with having been in the previous term and now, is that as of now, I still get a lot of emails and it's like information overload, but it's hard to focus on really what is relevant. So before we went through a period in which we were getting like every single email, or at least I felt like it. And it was really hard to get, like, it's a workload. I don't know, Shanice, how many emails do you get a day? And sometimes I don't have a day in which I can go through 10 emails, let alone.
I just figured I'd put it out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be, so my impetus for designating you chair of the, was the hope that maybe that committee could come up with some norms.
Right.
And then instead of baking them into the bylaws, we would just vote on those norms and accept those norms.
Okay.
Because with the emails, it's like, you know, previous entities would send every single city councilman's newsletter to everybody, like, and it was a lot.
It makes you,
It was a lot.
it's paralyzing, honestly.
Um,
But I do think that a communications committee coming up with norms that make sense for whatever is going on, or like maybe create a newsletter. They can, you know, maybe submit whatever they feel is more relevant to this particular legislative committee, or to, you know, channel those communications. I don't know.
I mean, if you follow the bylaws, you should be communicating properly. But if there is something specific that I feel like,
But I do feel like, I mean,
yeah.
I feel like we've, it's been much smoother. I just know, like, in the fall, there were a number of breakdowns with so many events and other things happening and people not getting all the information. And I think it has been a lot smoother.
And I think a lot of that is also not on the council. Like, a lot of the breakdowns do happen when there are fast-paced decisions being made at the city level, at the district level, that happen, you know, specifically during the summer transition and starting school. That's when things get tricky, and it's just it's by design. It's not by design. It's the nature of the animal. Like, things are just happening really fast, and things fall through the cracks. Now, if there is any sort of like issue in which communication is being withheld for a particular purpose, that is a different conversation. And I think that having the communications committee is precisely to deal with, to prevent any issues of transparency and whatever else we may have.
Yeah, because hypothetically, if I had any question about it, I would come to you.
Right.
And you're another oversight mechanism at this point, and I don't know that we need more than, but if you think there's a specific clause that should go in this, write it up and send it to Vanessa.
Yeah,
That's what I would say.
yeah. And maybe we can just raise that at the meeting next week, the communications
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. So from.
Oh, and wait, let me say one more thing. The other thing about adding additional clauses to the bylaws have to comply with the state law. And anything that's not in compliance with state law isn't enforceable. So you have to be careful adding additional things that there's no way to enforce them. So, it's like, there's something in our bylaws that's not enforceable. It's called this business meeting. Like, according to the state law, we're only obligated to hold one meeting a month. District 15 CEC has decided that, like, we have enough business that we need to do this in 2 meetings. But I can't give everybody absences. They're not obligated to be here under state law. So that's the other sort of implicit limitation to adding things to the bylaws. You can't enforce it.
Yeah, so whatever language would have to be, something that's foilable, which it is already, like, it's something in regards to us being in a public body that, and having information that's not disclosed, that's not a problem to have disclosed across different members, etc. I don't know. It'll be a homework.
All right, sorry.
Article 5, we just included the current committees that we have at this moment. We did not limit, so the council may create committees and define their membership as it might determine, including but not limited to the communications committee, legislative committee, and equity committee. And again, the council said it's free to add more committees to this list. Same on point F, we just created a little bit more specificity on that point. Ad hoc committees, such as the bylaws committees, inter alia, may be formed as needed for short-term projects. Okay, so parents associations, we simply included a more inclusive language to add family teachers associations, not just parents associations, to this clause. Speaking of the partnerships that we do have with PTAs, PAs, and now family teacher associations, FTAs, which some schools in the district are applying, just trying to be more inclusive. Article 7, vacancies. We now have a District 75 member in our council, so we included the language to account for that. So in the event that a member other than a District 75 member resigns, is removed, or becomes ineligible to serve, the council shall appoint a successor to fulfill the unexpired term within 60 days. Already being part of the law. I believe this is language that we got from FACE, since
was
there was an update to their bylaw template.
So I have questions about how that District 75 member,
Vacancy would happen,
how that vacancy would happen.
or how would we?
So
deal
this
with
100% came from FACE.
Right.
So they would have to appoint a District 75 replacement.
I don't know if they will appoint it, and I don't know what the process will be for an appointment for District 75, but it's clearly different. It's making a distinction. I'm curious that they didn't outline what the
Exactly
process
what the process would be.
So that would be a good question. Maybe we can.
Maybe we should maybe we should inquire about that. Put a little note there. Because you should know.
Okay. Um, Article 9, subsection B. We put some more forceful language on subsection B. It originally said the council may appoint one of its members to serve as a parliamentarian. Since we do enforce the occupancy of the parliamentarian role in this particular CC, so if we made it mandatory, shall elect.
Ah, I see. Mhm.
Article 10, we included this. Okay, so the previous version again referred to the records guidebook that was supposed to be kept by the president and the AA and was supposed to be given to the following president for their term.
Yeah.
Since that's no longer something that we're going to do, we simply erase that whole article. And instead, we included what Faith gave us as a template for the code of conduct. So we have three sections.
There is communications protocols in here.
Yes, but
But
it
it's
is
not-
not
yeah.
related to digital communications or emails, things like that. So this is more for meetings. And okay, so that section we had deleted and said we put it somewhere else in the bylaws. It's here. All official communications shall be sent through the council's DOE issued email address. The administrative assistant and the president shall have access to the account. Should be
I mean, it does say the administrative assistant, under the supervision of and direction of the president, shall inform all other council members promptly of any official notices and
I just
matters.
read that. I mean, I
I
think
mean,
that.
Yeah, yeah,
Jeez.
yeah.
And again, this pertains to official notices and matters pertaining to council business. I mean, I guess that can be open to interpretation, and then people may have or may not have issues with that. To me, it's about we're all volunteers. We both all have lives outside of here, so I don't know if somebody wants to specify what that means. I prefer to be more expeditious. And if we have an AA to help us do the work and a committee to help us do the work on that front. Yeah, all the better. And personal conduct at meetings, we included, again, the language that is given to us by FACE based on the education law. When it comes to code of conduct during meetings. So, I mean, it's pretty common sense. People should not conduct themselves in a way that will offend other members of the council or the public. There should not be physical fighting or verbal abuse or transgressions to other people. We are all, whether it's on the bylaws or not, we are all bound by chancellor's regulations, which provide harassment and discrimination of any kind, and it also prescribes remedies in case regulations are violated. There should not be threats, harassment, intimidation, or any sort of behavior that can intimidate other people. And if this does occur, the solution or the remedy that the law provides is grounds for suspension, possible exclusion during a meeting, or exclusion from the council itself after an investigation. There is a particular set of rules on this regard under the Chancellor's regulations. Section F, we are all bound by confidentiality of information. What else? we shall be nice to our AA.
Where exactly are you? Which letter?
G. On H, council members shall undertake and participate in all training and professional development, and there are some non-mandatory recommended trainings as well on anti-harassment and discrimination provided by the city, but by the chancellors, by FACE essentially. Members shall submit all reports in a timely manner, including reimbursements, individual performance reports, school visits reports, anything that pertains to the council, the operation of the council. We should be mindful of the public's time and be mindful of what we do at school buildings, particularly when there are children are in session or doing after school programs, be respectful of the space and the staff that is there. We have official correspondence sent under the name of the council. We should use official letterheads and submit it from the email account created for the council business specifically.
M is kind of important because M was something I requested and it deviates. Not that it deviates, but it's additional. It's an additional request. Council members shall notify the council if remarks they made outside of meetings are to be published, and shall identify the publication and topic discussed. If a council member engages in public remarks that reflect their personal views outside of a meeting, said member shall include a disclaimer indicating that their views do not necessarily represent those of the council. So that second sentence is from FACE, but the first sentence is something that I requested.
Right.
And it's obviously something I can't enforce, but
It's a
it's a
code of conduct.
it's a code of conduct. Yeah.
It's something that we should strive to do if we are, and it just provides clarity of something that is actually required by the council's regulations. That if a member of the council is providing personal remarks, it should not do so in the name of the council. And if that personal remarks being made, we have to differentiate those remarks in public and say, this is my personal opinion, this is not representing the council, period. What we are also asking here is that, which is not required by the chancellor, is that if there are remarks being made in the public sphere, that the council gets notice of such remarks, so that we are also aware as a public body that this is going to happen or is happening. And section 3, it's very general, abbreviated form of chancellor's regulations on what happens when there is an allegation of violation to one of the previous statements or of the code of conduct. There'll be an initial warning of the violation. Generally, there is some room for mediation that is recommended by FACE. The council itself has the power to censure the member, and that member could be removed from leadership. It can be suspended, or the chancellor can recommend, or the council can recommend to the chancellor that that member be expelled.
So, yeah. The mediation, I don't know who does that. I don't know if FACE does that mediation. This all came from FACE, straight up. Censure, Censure is literally, it's not censor. Censure means that the council just votes on a declaration that they disagree with whatever it was that that other council member said or did. Which is just a resolution. Like, we don't even really need to put that specific, like, the council could vote.
Draft any resolution.
I don't like it because I don't like to target
Specific individuals.
specific individuals ever. We've always been able to remove an officer from their position, but we cannot vote to remove a member from the council. We can vote to say, okay, you did a bad job at whatever your role was, and we're removing you from that officer role. And then suspension, I asked Face about this. There's no way to enforce it. If they put it here, but like, the council could vote to suspend a member, but the council has no power to actually remove that person from the building. And
How are you gonna, like, if you're voting on the resolution, you may not take that vote?
you
for
could, I
instance.
guess you could not take that vote. I guess that's true. You could just not take that vote, but Face did say that they don't know how it's a little bit fuzzy on how that would be enforceable. And yeah, the chancellor has always had the power to remove a council member.
And that's
So, yeah.
in a nutshell.
Yeah, well, thank you, Vanessa, for doing all that. It took us quite a long time to do that. And I hope all the council members read it closely and submit their comments to Vanessa, comments and questions. I guess we can offer the public a moment for public comment on this. Yeah.
Sure. Would anybody in Zoom land like to comment or ask a question about the bylaws?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say thank you so much for doing all this work.
Sure, my pleasure.
Vanessa, would you just
Yasmin
reach
also gave a
out?
thumbs up. Thank you.
Would you just reach out to Face and ask them about the District 75 member question? So that we can get some clarity on that.
So if there are no other questions or comments in Zoom, anybody in person, questions or comments? Let's see the questions percolating.
They're all true.
Council members, Stanley? I don't have
No,
any. Vanessa, Antonio.
thank you so much.
Okay.
That's all right. All right, great. I will stop sharing my screen. Good job, we got through that. That was relatively painless. Okay. I would have had Hans give the update from the Legislative Committee, but he's not here. Hans is the chair of the Legislative Committee, and we were contacted by Janet Marti, who has this idea, and I think it's an important one. And she's identified a problem that students with disabilities don't have anything on their IEPs to ensure that after-school programs and summer rising can provide equitable services to those students. There's literally nothing in the IEP that gives recommendations or directions on how to service those students during these non-school hours. And she pointed out that last year students were asked to either leave summer rising or be picked up early. And so this is really unfair. And so she would like to work with us on a resolution. Yeah. Do you want to say more about that, Danley, or no, you just, it's true.
They basically don't have like a paraprofessional to assist with the kids with their disability. So they choose not to deal with them, so they kick them out or tell them to leave.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a problem, and we've identified it, and Janet is gonna work with me and Hans on some sort of resolution about this, and so we're gonna meet on Friday, the 22nd, at 11 a.m., and everybody is welcome to join that meeting. Please come. Please come. Did you say you could? Oh, good, good. Yeah, great, wonderful. So I have to be here to open up the link, but you can join remotely. Yes. And then I will turn it over to Jonathan for the communications committee briefing. You can just pass
Yeah.
the mic down to
So
Jonathan.
just a quick update on communications committee. We will be holding a communications committee meeting next Wednesday, March 20th at 11:30 a.m. It can be either in person here at 131 Livingston or join via Zoom. I believe that Shanice sent out invitations to the district listserv.
We'll send out another one.
We'll send out another one with the Zoom link for
Yeah.
everybody.
Mhm.
But the main focus of that meeting is going to be to discuss the resolution on preventing and responding to hate speech. Antonia and I have been with others working off of the initial resolution sent to us by parents and trying to rework it in a way that is as inclusive as possible and also is feasible for action. So we are very much looking forward to this meeting where people can come in and give constructive feedback to create a resolution that everybody can be really proud of and can make a positive difference in our district.
Awesome, great, thank you.
I have a question on,
Yeah.
on that one. Just I saw that you have been working with the Peace Institute on the resolution.
Well, I had a conversation with somebody from the Peace Institute about it.
Having read and having had the context of the resolution, what sort of impact did they make? Like
A lot of impact. Yeah. In tone.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah. And not so much in content particularly, but in just how to have the conversation, the order of conversation.
Okay.
All right, so we do have a resolution, well, we have a memo of opposition on the agenda. What does the council propose that I do? Do we want to read that out into the record, or, I mean, we can't vote on it, or do we just move it to the next?
I think it's more practical.
To move it to the next, okay. All right, let me. All right, so moving on, I'll just give some old business and some new business. Old business, we all sort of put in our doodle poll feedback about when we can meet for our candidate interviews. I did send you all some candidate statements from potential interested parties. And our official date, based on the doodle poll, is going to be Wednesday, April 3rd, 6:30 to 9. So that will be a public meeting. The candidates will present themselves. We will ask some questions. I encourage the members to contribute to that doc with questions that you think you'd like to ask these candidates. We do have to come up with sort of a number, like a set number of questions, so that we keep this moving along. You know, we may have 5 or 6 candidates, and so that we will have to agree on how many questions and which questions, that we can have that conversation offline. New business, some things you should be thinking about. It's March. On the horizon is a superintendent's evaluation. That is finalized at the last calendar meeting in June. So I will send out the rubric for that. And you should start, thinking about how you want to fill that out. Sometimes waiting till the last minute isn't the best strategy for writing a thoughtful evaluation. And I think we're going to have to start having a conversation about the calendar for next year, for the summer. I think that we should ideally have that calendar finalized like in May. Like we should vote on that in May, so we know what our summer is going to be like. And that's it. Unless, do the council members have anything they want to add? Let's go home. Okay. All right. Great. I am going to. She's okay. I am going to adjourn this meeting at a record time of 7:44 p.m. And good night, everybody. Join us at PS 2:30 on the, what did I say it was? What date? The 26th at 6:30 for our next meeting. Have a great night, everyone. Oh, I have new messages on the chat.
Bye. Thank you, guys.
Bye.